Imagine a country on the precipice. Imagine millions pushed to the brink. Now imagine their ruler, seemingly oblivious, clinging to an outdated system. This wasn't ancient Rome. This was Russia in 1917. And the fuse was lit. By 1917, Russia had been at war for nearly 3 years. The First World War was a meat grinder, consuming men and resources at a horrifying rate. The Russian army, ill-equipped and poorly led, suffered defeat after defeat. Millions died, wounded or captured. Back home, the situation was even more dire. Food was scarce, prices skyrocketed, people were starving, the stage was set for revolution. The year is 1914. A shot rings out in Sarajevo. Within weeks, Europe is engulfed in war. Russia, bound by treaty and imperial ambition, joins the fray. The initial surge of patriotism quickly fades. The war becomes a nightmare. Russia's vast size, once a strength, became a liability. Supplying the front lines was a logistical nightmare. Ammunition, food, and medicine were in short supply. The soldiers, many of them peasants ripped from their farms, were poorly trained and equipped. Morale plummeted. Desertion became rampant. The once mighty Russian army was crumbling from within. February 1917. The world is in turmoil and Russia is no exception. The country is on the brink of monumental change, and the city of Petrograd is at the epicenter of this brewing storm. Petrograd, the capital of Russia, is a city on edge. The streets are filled with tension and the air is thick with the sense of impending upheaval. The winter has been brutal. Snow blankets the city, and the cold seeps into every corner, making life even more difficult for its residents. Food shortages have reached a crisis point. Shelves are empty, and the basic necessities of life are becoming increasingly scarce. Bread lines snake through the frozen streets. People wait for hours in the biting cold, hoping to secure enough food to feed their families. Women, the traditional providers of sustenance, bear the brunt of the suffering. They stand in line day after day, their faces etched with worry and fatigue. They are the ones who see their children go hungry. The pain of watching their little ones suffer is a burden they carry heavily. They are the ones who feel the government's indifference most keenly. The authorities seem distant and disconnected from the harsh realities faced by the common people. On February 23, March 8 on the Western calendar, International Women's Day, the women of Petrograd take to the streets. Their patience has worn thin, and their voices rise in unison. They are not demanding abstract political rights. They are demanding bread. Their cries are for the most basic of human needs, a reflection of their dire circumstances. They are demanding an end to the war. They are demanding change. The war has brought nothing but suffering, and the call for peace grows louder with each passing day. The protests, initially peaceful, quickly spiral into something more. The frustration and anger that have been simmering beneath the surface begin to boil over. Workers join the fray, striking in solidarity with the women. The movement gains momentum as more and more people take to the streets, united in their demands for a better future. The Tsar, isolated in his palace, orders the army to quell the unrest. He is out of touch with the reality on the ground, and his decisions only serve to inflame the situation. But the soldiers, weary of war and sympathetic to the plight of the people, hesitate. They are torn between their duty and their empathy for the suffering masses. Some even join the protesters. The lines between authority and rebellion blur as the soldiers' loyalty shifts. The Tsar's authority begins to crumble. The once unassailable power of the monarchy is now in jeopardy as the people's voices grow louder and more insistent. The Tsar, facing pressure from all sides, abdicates on March 2nd. The Romanov dynasty, which had ruled Russia for over 3 centuries, comes to an abrupt end. A provisional government, composed of liberal and moderate socialist politicians, is formed to fill the power vacuum. But there is another player on the stage: the Petrograd Soviet. The Petrograd Soviet, a council of workers and soldiers, emerges as a rival center of power. The Soviet, though initially willing to cooperate with the provisional government, holds true power in the capital. It controls the garrisons, the factories, and the streets. The stage is set for a power struggle between the provisional government, clinging to the old ways, and the Petrograd Soviet representing the aspirations of the masses. The provisional government, desperate to shore up its legitimacy and appease its allies, makes a fateful decision. It launches a new offensive against Germany. The offensive, named after Alexander Kerensky, the charismatic minister of war, is a disaster. The Russian army, demoralized and ill-prepared, is routed. The offensive backfires spectacularly, further eroding the government's credibility and strengthening the Bolsheviks' hand. The July days see anti-government demonstrations erupt in Petrograd. The Bolsheviks, initially hesitant, are swept up in the tide of popular anger. They call for the overthrow of the provisional government. The government, however, manages to cling to power, albeit precariously. The Bolsheviks are driven underground. Their leader, Vladimir Lenin, flees to Finland, but the seeds of revolution have been sown. The October Revolution, the Bolsheviks seize the moment. October arrives. Russia is teetering on the brink. The provisional government, deeply unpopular and paralyzed by indecision, seems incapable of governing. The Bolsheviks, sensing an opportunity, prepare for a second decisive strike. On the night of October 24th, the Bolsheviks, under the leadership of Leon Trotsky, launch their coup. They seize key points in Petrograd, the telegraph, the power station, the Winter Palace, the seat of the provisional government. The takeover is swift and surprisingly bloodless. The provisional government collapses. The Bolsheviks are in power. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, a humiliating peace. This treaty marked a significant turning point in the history of World War I and the Russian Revolution. The Bolsheviks, having seized power, face a daunting task. They are now responsible for a nation in turmoil, a country ravaged by war and internal strife. The country is in chaos, the war drags on and the people are suffering, the economy is in shambles, and the infrastructure is collapsing. Lenin, a pragmatist, knows that Russia cannot fight on. He understands that continuing the war would only lead to further devastation and loss. He makes a controversial decision. He will seek peace with Germany, no matter the cost. This decision is met with resistance from many within his own ranks. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, signed in March 1918, is a humiliation. It is a bitter pill for the new Bolshevik government to swallow. Russia is forced to cede vast territories to Germany and its allies. These territories include some of the most economically and strategically important regions of the former Russian Empire. The losses are staggering. Poland, a region rich in resources and industry; Finland, a key strategic area; the Baltic states, Ukraine, which is the breadbasket of Europe, and parts of Belarus are all gone. These losses are not just territorial, but also cultural and economic. The treaty is a bitter pill to swallow. The Russian people feel betrayed, and the Bolshevik leadership is under immense pressure. But for Lenin, it is a necessary evil. It buys him time to regroup, time to stabilize the government, and time to plan for the future. Time to consolidate his power. The Bolsheviks use this period to strengthen their hold on the country and to build a loyal and effective military force. Time to rebuild the country. The focus shifts to reconstruction and recovery, aiming to restore some semblance of normalcy to the war-torn nation. Time to unleash the next chapter of the revolution. Lenin and his followers are determined to transform Russia into a socialist state, setting the stage for future conflicts and changes. Blood and iron, the Russian Civil War. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk may have ended Russia's involvement in the First World War, but it ignites a new conflict, the Russian Civil War. The Bolsheviks, now known as the Reds, face opposition from all sides. Monarchists, liberals, socialists, and foreign powers all seek to crush the fledgling Bolshevik regime. The Russian Civil War is a brutal, chaotic affair. It is a war of ideologies, a war of survival. The Reds, led by Trotsky, fight with a ferocity born of desperation. They are outnumbered, outgunned, but not outmatched. They use terror, propaganda, and military skill to crush their enemies. The Whites, a loose coalition of anti-Bolshevik forces, are plagued by internal divisions and lack of clear leadership. They are ultimately defeated. From ashes to empire, the rise of the Soviet Union. The story of the Soviet Union is one of transformation, resilience, and ambition. Emerging from the ruins of the Russian Empire, it would go on to become one of the most influential entities of the 20th century. The Russian Civil War ends in 1922 with a Bolshevik victory. This victory was not just a military triumph, but a profound shift in the political landscape of the region. The Bolsheviks, under the leadership of Lenin, sought to reshape society from the ground up. Russia, battered and exhausted, is reborn as the Soviet Union. This new entity was built on the ideals of Marxism-Leninism, promising a classless society and the end of exploitation. The formation of the Soviet Union marked the beginning of a new era. The world watches with a mixture of awe and apprehension. The rise of the Soviet Union sent shockwaves across the globe, challenging the existing world order and inspiring both fear and admiration. Leaders and citizens alike were captivated by the rapid changes. The revolution, once a distant storm, has unleashed a new force on the world stage. The Bolshevik Revolution was more than just a national upheaval. It was a clarion call for oppressed peoples everywhere, signaling that change was possible. The Soviet Union will go on to become a global superpower, a beacon of hope for some, a source of fear for others. Its rapid industrialization and military might would position it as a formidable player in global politics, especially during the Cold War. Its legacy will be debated for decades to come. Scholars, politicians, and ordinary people will continue to discuss and dissect the impact of the Soviet Union on world history, its achievements, and its failures. But one thing is certain: the world will never be the same. The influence of the Soviet Union extended far beyond its borders, affecting global politics, economics, and culture in ways that are still felt today. The Russian Revolution, a crucible of violence and upheaval, will forever be etched in the annals of history. It was a period of intense struggle and profound change, setting the stage for the rise of the Soviet Union. It is a story of revolution and ruin, of hope and despair, of the enduring power of ideas, and the human capacity for both great good and unspeakable evil. The Soviet Union's journey is a testament to the complexities of human ambition and the unpredictable nature of history.